Welcome to Womb Talk. I'm your host, Elizabeth Vanderwalt, the owner and founder of Fruitful Womb Doula Services. In Womb Talk, we like to go over different topics that are acceptable for all audiences. We're not medical professionals. Everything on this podcast is just to educate you so that you can make better choices for your body. If you have a passion for all things women's health, then let's start listening. Don't forget to check us out on social media. We're on a lot of platforms. Let's start talking. Today we have the incredible Karen Crow, and she is going to share her birth story with us. I've got about 5 questions, but let's go off topic. Let's be real. Just truly share whatever it is that you want to share about your birth. To any of the new folks, it's going to be raw, unfiltered. So she's going to be as open as she would like. So if that grosses you out, you may want to skip this episode. So, first question is, would you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do in life? What's life like for you a little bit?
Sure. I am a wife and a mom of 3 children, 3 adult children right now, which is fantastic and also scary. But I'm also a caregiver in very many ways. I am a certified midwife, and also I've been a doula and a childbirth teacher. I also take care of the elderly, babies, breastfeeding, all of the things. I am also an artist and do that as well. So I just, there's not enough hours in the day.
I love it. I love it so much. I'm also one that likes to do a little bit of everything. So I love when I find other people that are like, "Hey, I like to do it all."
Absolutely. Renaissance women.
Yeah,
Renaissance
it's just the best one whatsoever. So, would you like to tell us a little bit about your birth story? I left this an open-ended question, but just like in your eyes, how do you see your births? Did you feel supported? Was it something that you're like, these are the best things, never would change it? Or if I could go back, do something different, I would.
Sure. You had a question at that you sent me that was it kind of goes into this. Was did you have a good relationship with your mama?
Yeah.
And could she tell you? If
Yeah.
that's okay, I'll
Yeah.
start
Yeah.
there.
Start there. That's good.
Yeah. So I was actually adopted by my grandparents. My biological mother had postpartum psychosis. So she had mental illness and she was not able to take care of me, was not really able to take care of herself. So I actually got adopted around 2 years old by my grandparents. And my grandmother was a lawyer, and one of the first lawyers in Allegheny County. She was also this like kind of larger than life person. She had 4 children of her own, took care of many others as well. And she had a very matter of fact, and I like to think very German way of looking at birth. It was like, it's hard work, but it's fine. Just do it and just get it done. Just get the work done, that kind of attitude. But as a adopted child, and many adopted children feel this, that kind of uh, mystery around their own birth and mystery about birth and parenthood and all of those things. And so from the time I was a small child, I was really interested in it. And in fact, like at age 12, I was buying birth books at the bookstore. It was just something that was amazing to me. And so coming into when I could get into my own, I really wanted to have babies. That was like one of the things that I was just like, one of my goals in life was I wanted to have children. And I got pregnant in 2000. It was just kind of the advent of birth, birth and parenting groups and online, and I got all of this information, which was amazing. And I was deathly afraid of hospitals, and because my parents had both, by then my grandparents had passed away, and all of that kind of trauma associated when your loved ones do pass, that And I had heard stories about births at the hospital. And my husband in the military, they're even worse in military hospitals. Um, Thankfully, we were in Pittsburgh. We were able to have midwives. And in fact, at that time, my midwives were doing home births. The certified nurse midwives that we got. And so my husband looked at me and said, I know how you feel about hospitals. Do you want to have a home birth with them? And I said, yes, I do. You up for this? And he said, yes, I am. And I said, fantastic, let's do it. So it ended up with myself as far as like who supported us. It was me and my husband, of course, and a nurse midwife and a nurse who came, as well as my sister-in-law, my friend. Ended up, my brother-in-law also came. It was it was a party. Now, was it a party? Do I think that everybody should have a party? No, 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 no. And everybody was very respectful and careful around me during my birth. But it was, and then we also had Bradley natural childbirth classes. So, which was also helpful for my husband to understand like what was going to happen and how I was going to act, because who you are as a birth worker, who you are, like this bubbly, happy person, that's not always who you are in birth, as you can imagine. Um, so, um, so that's the leading up to our birth story was that background. Um, and my first birth, um, like many births, it was, it was a certain period of time. It was actually 8 hours from when my water broke to when she was born. But it was really a lot of what they call prodromal labor.
Yep.
Which is that, on and off again type of stuff that happens. And that was like 3 days of that. My midwives were absolutely certain I was going to have her like a week before she came, because I was a 0 station, 3 centimeters dilated, which basically means she was right there. She was a bowling ball just sitting in my hips. And it was hard to move. It was hard to do anything. I was kind of like, well, I guess I'm up. I'm going to take walks and I'm going to eat and I'm going to lie in bed and I'm going to read books. And I don't know what else to do, because I'm just having on and off labor all the time. And my husband was in the National Guard. So he had to go to guard, of course. And so the day before he went to guard, and I just said, I'll call you if I need you. But in the middle of the night, he had gone to bed, and right around, I'm like starting to feel stuff, but it's fine. And then at 6 a.m., I ran to the bathroom because I heard a pop. And it was just like, literally, you could hear it. It felt like you could feel, and then boom, my water was broken. And very quickly afterwards, I was in, active labor, thank goodness. So started calling all the peeps to come. And my sister-in-law got here. She was on the lookout for the midwife and the nurse, and got our neighbor involved, because the neighbor, is a nurse, and my sister-in-law is looking out, and this woman comes out of her car, and she says, and my sister-in-law is like, "Are you the nurse?" And she's like, "I am a nurse. Do you need a nurse?" And she's like, No, my sister-in-law is just having a baby in the house. It's nothing. It's fine. And so as the day progressed, and as you think, oh, this is the worst, it's ever been for me. And then the midwife tells you, oh no, you're 3, you're 4. And you're like, oh no. Um, and you think, oh, I'm okay. And she's just like, sweetheart, just it's gonna be okay. You got this. Just buckle up. We're okay. And then around 6 centimeters, she, checks me and then, watches me do my coping, which I thought I was doing very well. I
I'm
thought
sure
I
you
was
are.
doing, I'm doing great. But she looks at me and she's like, huh, hey, let's go for a walk. And I was like, I don't want to go for a walk. What do you mean? I'm coping. I'm doing great. And she told me later that she said, yeah, you were doing great, but you weren't like progressing at all. So I need you to we need to go get this
Move.
kicking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my husband, who is a wonderful man, was like, come on, we'll just go for a walk. She's like, yeah, let's just do the stairs. I know you don't want to go outside. I get that. But let's do the stairs, okay? Just a few times. And being a Pittsburgh house, we've got a number of stairs. So, started walking down the stairs, walking back up the stairs. I walked down the stairs, started walking back up when I had a contraction that no one, I thought this is no, my legs buckled literally on the stairs. And my husband grabbed me and held me like this, like, I got you, baby. I got you. I got you. It's okay. I got you. At the time, we were both exactly the same weight. So I'm really glad that he was very strong because he held us both on those stairs. But that was my midwife said later, was that's what I was looking for. That's what you needed. You needed to allow the labor to get stronger because you weren't. And I think also part of that was the fact that I was going to become a mother, and my mother had the postpartum psychosis, which they did not call that at the time in the 70s when I was born. That they just said she was crazy. So uh, so there was some baggage there, and during the time when I was kind of holding my own labor back, my midwife's like, you're going to be a good mom, you're going to be, and she knew my history. You're going to be a good mom, you're going to be okay, it's you're going to be great. And I said, okay. And when that transition hit, I'm sorry. My mother-in-law was also here too. It was a party. Um, when that transition hit, where I literally thought, and we're at home. There's nothing. You have to just do the work. As my grandmother would say, you have to just do the work. I knew there was a gun in the house because, of course, being a military family, I was like, they could shoot me. They could shoot me, and then they'd have to take me to the hospital. And then they'd have to give me drugs. I know it. And now, of course, when you're in the middle of this birth, this amazing thing that's happening, that I completely forgot I was having a baby. I was like, why is this happening to me? Why? And then they're like, okay, well, the baby's coming. Oh, right, I'm having a baby. Okay, all right, I forgot. Okay. But you can't speak. Like, that part of your brain just kind of shuts down.
Yeah.
So a lot of women, you can get out a sentence, you can get out, just one or two things. And I looked at my husband with all of this floating in my mind and said, I don't think I can do this. And he and his mother, both exactly at the same time, said, oh, yes, you can. Oh, yes, you can. And that was so helpful because, of course, my mother-in-law is like, what are we doing? This is crazy. I had babies at the hospital. Why are we? But she was still very supportive of what we were doing and how our baby was coming into the world. It is a level of magnitude, especially when you're young. I was 27. Like, you've never experienced something this like earth shattering, and shattering to your psyche, shattering to who you are as a person. And then, and then you push out this baby,
Yeah.
and then you are a completely different person. Having that support of people who love you and support you the is the thing that I believe helped me when my mother didn't have that help.
Yeah.
So we're in the thick of it, and my husband's behind me holding me up, helping me hold my legs, um, and out comes this beautiful little person. And she decided that breathing was optional for
Oh,
a half a second. It was not long. The midwife placed her on top of me. She said, "Mommy, just tell your little girl to breathe." And rubbed her, gave her a little bit of blow by oxygen, but nothing spectacular. And then she decided, you know what? All right, fine, whatever. I'll do it.
she just really wanted to make sure, you really better appreciate this fully.
Praise me. I
Yeah, yeah.
can. I did the work too. And we do. And we do. And she is a fantastic. She is the epitome of the eldest daughter. Does, whatever needs to get done to keep the family, whole and moving in the right direction. So and that was my first birth, and it was amazing. And breastfeeding was also a journey, but we did it. Um, and I was still nursing when I got pregnant with my second, which was a little harrowing, because my husband, I got pregnant 2 weeks. Well, I got pregnant, and I told my husband when he was deployed. Like literally, we got pregnant right before he got deployed.
Oh, wow.
So I did that entire pregnancy with my husband deployed. So
Did he make it back in time for the birth?
he did.
Oh,
He
awesome.
did. But the funny part of that, and again, like babies are, I will say this, and this is one of the things that I say to all of my birth clients as a doula and as a midwife. Um, Babies are really smart creatures.
Yep.
They're incredibly smart. They know the vibe. They know what's going on. Um, my daughter was what they call a transverse lie. So this is my second daughter.
Yeah.
And she was a transverse lie until her dad came home, like for her birth. She was like, I am not coming out until the man is here. And she decided to go head down while I was at Fort Dix to pick him up from with
It's time to move now.
time to go now. And actually, I was in a bowling alley with my 2-year-old when she decided to go head down. And let me tell you, that your listeners will understand round ligament pain. Usually you get that like slowly. I got it all at once in that bowling alley, surrounded by drunk soldiers, and it was incredibly painful. And I should have gone to the hospital, and I would be very angry if one of my clients didn't, because it was so painful. I thought something terrible was happening. But the very lovely drunk soldiers helped us to the car, got my daughter into her car seat. And I was like, I'm going to be fine. Everything's fine. But
I've got
yes.
this lovely picture in my head right now
Yeah.
of this like bowling alley, and it's like packed full, and you just see these people coming to help you. I feel for you, because in that moment that might have been a little extra added stress you did not need.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you okay, ma'am? Ma'am, are you? I'm gonna be fine. Everything's fine. I'm gonna be okay. It's just, yeah, I think my daughter just moved. It's okay. So yeah. So we did have because of the chance that my husband was not going to be back for her birth, we did have a doula.
Okay.
For that birth. So a professional doula, which was incredibly helpful, because she was such a wonderful support when he was away, as well as when he was here. Um, she, as my husband said, I thought that she was there for me. It felt like she was there for me. She got him food and she gave him suggestions and all of the things. But when he was also away, she was kind of walking me through, what a second birth looks like, because I was afraid. I mean, the first birth, you don't know what you're getting into. The second birth, oh, you know what you're getting into. Plus, it was at the hospital. This time around, my midwives were only doing hospital births, and I didn't want to change practices. And so I didn't like hospitals, and which was, I mean, there is some rational fears, and sometimes there are irrational fears. Sometimes there are trauma-based fears. I had a number of trauma-based fears of hospitals due to my grandparents being in them quite a bit. But also, I did not want a lot of interventions for my births.
Yeah.
I wanted them to be as natural as possible. So, I was worried about interventions. That's why we got the doula. And she was lovely. Her name was Jan Malik. She was a very mommy doula. Which, there are doulas who are coaches and like, you can go, you do this, you got this, let's do this. And then there are, two, and then there are mommy doulas. You're good. We got you, rubbing your back and doing all the things. And each doula is a combination of those things. She could be very mommy. And I kind of needed that, given I didn't have a mother other than my mother-in-law, who was lovely, but a mother at the time. So with that birth, also my water broke, and we had to go to the hospital, which, the last time the hospital came to me. The birth people came to me. So when people say things like, I hated going to the hospital because of all of the potholes, I'm like, I know, they're terrible, aren't they? They're so awful. Every time you hit, like, don't drive the car slow, but drive the car fast, and don't hit any potholes. But oh my gosh, this is hard. And we got to the hospital. Our doula was at the hospital, waiting for us there. And she set the room up. She got like quiet music on, and she had a rocking chair for me and a birth ball, and she even, she was a very experienced doula, which was fantastic, because she saw my face, and literally, again, when I was in the middle of births, there were no words. I could not speak. That left part of my brain just shut down. But she looked at my face and she understood that the nurses who were just outside our room were talking and laughing. And she was like, oh, this is a problem. Because it was just too loud for me. And so she went out and she said, could you guys just move over here with your conversation? My client is having, she's having a natural birth, and and so she kind of like greased the way in a very nice way. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. So thank you.
Yeah.
And kind of moved my chair back a little further into the room, and, got my husband, what he needed. During that birth, she set up the ball in the shower. So we were able to do intermittent monitoring,
Okay.
which was great. So that, it was like 15 minutes on, 45 minutes off. So in the shower. And so she gave me the shower, massager, and she said, just put it where you need it. It's great. The I swore there was someone at the time that this is what my thinking was. There was someone turning the heat of the water down every time I had a contraction. Like it was like, okay, the water's warm, now the water's cold. Why is the water cold? I'm having a contraction and it's terrible and I don't like this. It wasn't cold, it was just my body was heating up.
Yeah,
And so
you just wanted it hotter.
right. And it could not have gotten it. I like it, they couldn't make it hotter because you can't have it too hot, you know. But it was tough. It's hard work, as my mom would say. It's hard work. My grandma would say it's a hard work. But so that birth, my daughter did have a nuchal cord when she was born. So they did have to work a little bit to get the cord from around her neck as she was coming out, and then just right afterwards. And she had a slight shoulder stickiness. It was not a dystocia, but it was just stickiness. So the midwife, who was a student at the time, kind of did her best to do that. But there was also a good amount of bleeding after that birth. So it was good that we were in the hospital. They did give me a lot of meds for that. It was also, looking back at that pregnancy, because my husband was away, I could, if there was any regrets, you asked, I would say I think I needed to take better care of myself. I was taking care of a toddler by myself at the time. And I feel like had I gotten, maybe asked for more support, when I did ask for support, I got support. But I think that, had I been more on my nutrition, I may not have had as much bleeding. I was much better in my first pregnancy taking care of myself, but circumstances were what they were. So after that birth, I did experience, a good amount of anemia because I had a good bleed after. And, but, everything was taken care of. Everybody was very helpful. But you look back at those pictures and you're like, oh my gosh, I was green. Like it was just, it was ugly. So I do talk to a lot of my clients about things like, making sure that you have enough water to drink, and, fruits and vegetables first, protein, and I knew these things, but I didn't, like also when you have a toddler, so finding ways to get rid of barriers to nutrition, to self-care and support, is one of the things that I do as a birth worker now. So,
and even looking back, is there a chance that maybe you were a little stressed out about him being gone as well? Like,
oh gosh,
that probably didn't help to anything.
It did not, in no way did that help. No, exactly. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
So, I mean, just not to put my own thought on it, but I'm like, I'm like, maybe that was like a really big highlight as well with him being gone. You're like, my brain's not here. My brain's thinking on that subject over there, and he's so far away.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. Yes. Yeah, there was just a lot of
it was just a handful of a combination of things that kind of played maybe into that whole scenario there.
Yes, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And so then 3 years later, we got pregnant with the last one, which was kind of a bonus we did not expect. A lot of us are bonus babies, so I always think of my son as a bonus baby. And by that point, our midwife center had an actual center. So it was an out of hospital center, which was lovely. I always, said to my clients, I'm glad you're having babies, because if I had another baby, I'd have to have it at Walmart, because I've had the home, the hospital, the birth center. So there's no more places for me to try. So and that one we had actually two doulas for because I was friends with so many doulas by that point, because I had been a natural childbirth teacher for a number of years after my second daughter was born. I became a childbirth Bradley natural childbirth teacher, and so it was kind of like, again, it becomes a party,
Yeah.
like what are you going to do? I'm going to have my friends. And I also had a friend who was going to become a childbirth teacher. She was going to be there as well, and she was, and which was very helpful for our children because they were coming to the birth center with us, as which and I always super enjoy having kids at births, as long as they have dedicated people for them.
Yeah.
Because you just don't know when something's going to go sideways, and mom and dad have to jet. And also, as I found out with my children, sometimes children are like, okay, I want to go. I don't want to be here anymore. And they were, and that's, my oldest daughter was like, yeah, I'm out. Can I go watch something? She was like, can we, there's movies upstairs, right? We did use, they had jacuzzis there. Did use extensively during that birth. But really quick, going back, my first two births, as I said, my water broke, and then I went into labor, like real honest to God labor. With my son, I had been up at night and nursing our other daughter, and he started having contractions, and I was like, okay. And I stayed up, watched some PBS, late at night, and I'm like, these are getting stronger. And then around 5 a.m., I woke up my husband, and I said, hey, I think this might be it. And he was really tired because, again, he's a soldier and he does soldiery things all the time. And he was like, is your water broken yet? And I said, no. And he's like, okay. And he went back to sleep. And I was so mad. I cannot tell you, Lisa, how mad I was at this man, who I love desperately. But he just went right back to bed. So I went downstairs. I made breakfast for everybody but him. And at 6 o'clock, because it took me that long, I went back upstairs, and I hit him this time. And I said, I think it really is time to go. These contractions are getting hard. And he was like, is your water broken yet? And I said, no, but if you don't get out of this bed right now, I'm going to kill you. And so he said, okay. And then the son of a gun went and took a shower. And I'm like, no, clearly I was dealing with these far too well because he did not understand the urgency of where I was at the time. And so then he gets our daughters ready, and it is like an hour later as we were driving away to the midwife center. And in Pittsburgh, where the midwife center is, there was the parking lot across the street. There is what they call Penn Avenue, which is the straight shot right into downtown Pittsburgh, and the midwife center. It is rush hour now. So we have to get across the street. There is no light. There is nothing across the street. And I am having contractions. So there's cars zipping by, and my husband's like, okay, we're gonna time it. We're gonna do it. And I'm like, no, we're not. And he's like, yes, we are. So he waited until after this really quite long contraction, and said, okay, are you done? And I'm like, yes, I'm done. And then he's like, okay, let's go. And he's like, we're running across Penn Avenue as we're trying to get into the midwife center. I don't recommend no stars. I don't recommend doing it. But we were able to get in and get situated and into the birth suite. and actually like all the bells and whistles done before I had another contraction, which is also one of the most amazing things about women, is that you sometimes can stop the contractions from coming.
Just
So
give it a minute here.
just hold on. Um, it was, the kids were fun, the kids were good. Grandma got there. They were also taken care of by by my friend, and then the other doula. So it was a very quick birth. So it wasn't very quick. It was long at home before I really realized I was in labor, which also happens a lot of times. That third baby is the wild card baby.
Yep.
Total wild card baby. So I had 8 hours, then the second was 5 hours, and then the third one was 8 hours. But it was super easy for most of that time, up until the very end when I wanted to kill everyone and tried to run away. So we had used the jacuzzi, we had gone, and my midwife was like, maybe we should get out of the jacuzzi, because midwives and doulas, as you know, I'm sure, can start to like hear where a mom is in her labor. And at the time they weren't doing water births. So she's like, hey, why don't you get out of the jacuzzi? Maybe we'll do some stuff on the bed. I'm like, fine, whatever. Okay. And I get out of bed, and she's like, by that point, I'm like having them, because of course, when you move, you start to have more contractions. It's like, oh, I don't want to do this. And she said, can I check you? And I looked her in the face and I said, no. And I literally, if I had the ability, I would have run out of the room, because I did not want anyone touching me. I didn't want anything happening to me. It was like, no, I don't. But she's like, well, maybe. And I'm like, oh, all right, fine. Get on the bed. She's like, yeah, you're like 8 or 9. Do you want me to break your water? And I'm like, no, no. I just, like, I can't handle you touching my flesh. I don't want you breaking my water. And she's like, it's fine. It's okay. Don't worry. And Anne was super sweet about it, because not like 2 minutes later, my water broke right in her face. It's really awful. It wasn't in her face. It got on her leg, but it was still like, we could have avoided this, but it was fine. It's okay. She was very sweet about it. And and then very quickly, right after my water broke, my son was born. So had we waited, like my husband perhaps might have wanted, we would have had a baby all by ourselves, free birthing at our house.
Yeah. Or in the car.
Like,
that was my thought. You're talking about driving. I'm like, he's just so lucky you didn't have to pull over and have that baby on the side of the freeway.
Yes, exactly. It would have been right on Penn Avenue. We would have had the baby, which has happened to other people at the Midwife Center. But sure. Everything turned out really well. Having the doulas, we got pictures. That was another wonderful thing about having a doula who is professional. They know how to take some nice shots, and lovely. And then those birth stories that you get afterwards, that was also wonderful, because a lot of times you forget, what's happening at the time. And the midwives are there for your health. They're not there. They do a little bit of stroking, of helping with that sort of thing. But it's a doula that really does really support you emotionally, physically, mentally, that type of support. So we were very happy. And as soon as everything was done and over and everything was good, my doula, Jan, was like, okay, so when you want to become a doula, you just call me and we're going to make it happen. So She was lovely.
I
And
love that so
so
much.
not too long later, I did become a doula with her. So it was great.
That's I find that the amazing part of that is that you had three completely like different things. They were one was so different from the other. Like there was not from what at least I gathered listening in,
Mhm.
there was no ounce of similarity whatsoever.
No,
Maybe a few
no,
characters at the scene of the crime kind of thing.
exactly. Yes, that's exactly. And my first midwife, Lori, she is just an amazing, Lori Albright, just an amazing, wonderful midwife. She said to me as when I was a childbirth teacher, she said, Karen, I have been to 1,500 births, and not one of them was the same. They shared characteristics, but not one of them was exactly the same. You got to be on your toes. Like
Yeah.
that's but also the wonderful makeup, the wonderfulness that is, you know, is our ability to give birth. That, it just she said it, it's always a miracle whenever that baby's head crowns, and she just loved it.
I think
So,
that's the thing when you work with birth too. You're kind of like, I just like love this so much. And when you were mentioning that you started reading the books at 12, like that's me. I was 11. I got my period. I'm like, okay, now I need to read everything. Like it just give it all to me. I want all the information possible. And you said that I was like, yep, so same,
yeah.
so the same.
Yeah, right. You follow your bliss, follow what you want. That knowledge is fantastic.
And I bet if
It's
you asked a few other doulas, birth workers, midwives kind of thing, they would probably have similar stories where they, at a young age, kind of got in that same vibe. Like, I think I was 7 years old, and I remember my Sunday school teacher, she was pregnant, and I was upset every week. I'm like, oh, are you this many weeks pregnant now? Or, like, I remember that so vividly yet. And she probably was like, what a strange little child
I,
asking every week.
some kids are just totally into it, and
Yeah.
you just go with it. It's
And then
it's so much fun. Also, yeah.
then you have your
Sorry.
daughter that was like, nope, I don't want to be here.
Nope,
Bye.
I'm out. I'm done. She did come back at the very, like, as soon as the baby came out. We did not know what the sexes of the babies were before they were born. And we had ultrasounds, but we didn't
Didn't want to know.
do anything like that. Didn't want to know. And so we thought for sure we were having another girl. Um, vibes, I guess. But then the baby came out, and she was like, well, what is it? And she was like, well, why don't you check? And she's like, it's a boy. So it was lovely to have your 5-year-old, there as the person to let us know that it was a boy.
That is
So
just so amazing. And you were mentioning that you were pregnant in 2000 with your first. So she's pretty
yes.
much the same age as me then, because I was born in 2000. So
Yeah.
same age
Yeah.
roughly.
Yes, it's been a while, and now I have clients that are younger. I do birth assisting now. I actually have a heart condition that is absolutely fine unless I am, staying up all night long and under a lot of stress, which is uh,
Bummer.
not conducive to being a primary midwife. But I do birth assist, and it's a whole mess of fun, and totally wonderful. But now I have clients that are younger than my daughter, and it's like, oh my, okay.
I remember
But
that with my first birth. I was 18 when I attended my first birth. And she,
it's
afterwards, she was
wonderful.
like, there's a high chance that you could possibly be my daughter's doula one day. And I told her, I'm like, I don't want to think about that. That seems too like future. I don't want to think about that far in the future.
Right?
Yeah.
But
A
it also is a
possibility.
wonderful, like, having the moms and the daughters is kind of amazing.
Have you had
In
that
general.
opportunity yet in your
I have been at a few Amish births. I haven't had like one of my babies. However, I have been at Amish births, where we had the mom, a few weeks ago, and now the daughter's having her baby.
Oh.
So and my primary my my preceptor has had that, where she's had a few that she caught. So
That is
it's
so
pretty
awesome.
amazing.
That
That's
is very awesome.
fantastic.
Well, you kind of answered all of the questions in between, like, because one of them was like, "Oh, do you have a doula at your birth? You know, what was your knowledge of birth before?" So
Yes.
you kind of answered them all in the thing. So there's only one at the end yet. Was what's one thing that you'd like to share with new mothers as like something you've learned? I mean, you're very skilled through all of your midwifery doula practice, but like what you've learned as a mother, like what's one thing that new mothers are like, you need to know this, like do this one trick, hack, whatever you'd like to call
Oh,
it.
I mean, just so having been a postpartum doula, having been you know, a midwife and a bubba, as you said, like a million things. Um, I think I mean, if I had to boil it down to it, is that babies are, as I said, babies are smart creatures. They are wonderful and amazing, and they are part of your family, and they are human. And so, they're not trying to manipulate you more than, more than any other person in your family. Like they're just, so when people are like, oh, well, the baby's trying to manipulate you to nurse at night, and baby's trying to get you to do this and get you to do that. Well, yeah, sure, because they know that the safest place in the universe is in your arms. Like there is a whether you want to say, God-given, evolutionarily given knowledge that babies have, that the safest place for them is with mom and dad. So that, yeah, they don't want to sleep in their bassinet by themselves, and they want to sleep in your arms, and they want to, they want to do all, they want to be close to you. Um, so uh, trying to short circuit that, of course, you have to get some sleep, and of course, you have to, eat and do all of the things that you need to do. But also honoring um, that need to be with you, to be close to you, to want to be with mom and dad, um, is important. So when your doula or midwife say to you, who is going to support you at home, that's really important,
Yeah.
because you're going to have a person, a little baby person who you have to take care of 24 hours a day, which you have never done before, or never done that way with what
This
you
one.
have, like say you have another child or whatever. um, so with the Amish, they have someone with them for 6 weeks after the birth, and
Wow.
sometimes, for a lot of that, they're there 24 hours a day. It's usually like the mother's sister, or a younger person, a younger girl in the community who is out of school, or whatever that looks like, who is learning to take care of a household and is there to support you, so that mom basically just has to nurse the baby, and sit in a chair and eat, so that they have that support, because that baby mom dyad is so important. um, Babies get their, you know that sense of self, because they don't know who they are at that time. Long story long, but basically it's that support. You need the support. Um, and if people offer to bring you food, say yes. If people offer to hold the baby while you take a shower, say yes. If people say, hey, I'll come do your laundry, sure, come, yes, do my laundry, please. Whatever that support looks like. If grandma wants to, hang out with the baby while you take a nap, yes, yes, please. Yes. Just try to get as much rest and support, and just love up on your baby, and everything else just definitely um, falls into place.
I love
So,
that. It's kind of similar to I say always, you can't think you could do it all. This is the moment you don't want to do it all. Just this is the time to delegate.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. You can do it all in a long period of time.
Yeah, you've done it all. Yeah, like you're
You've
just
done it
collecting
all.
it. You don't have to do it all right now.
That's exactly it. Please don't expect that. They just, expect that it's going to take about a year
Yeah.
to feel like yourself again. Um, and even then, you will be a new and wonderful self. Um, after you have children, you are just a different person, and that's okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you got to share today. I loved listening to every part of it. Like it was incredible.
Thank you, thank
And
you.
thank
I'm
you for
so glad to.
sharing. And hopefully the children that you gave birth to are not too upset that you're sharing all the gory details on the internet.
Oh no, they're not. Oh, they're great. I mean, they have been they've been to other births now. Like, hey, listen, I need somebody to watch this kid for this couple while they give birth. Can you do that? Yeah, I guess I can.
They're birth workers' children.
They're birth workers' children.
Yeah,
There's been,
let's sum it up.
I see your baby doll. They know that baby doll. They've played
Yeah.
with that baby doll.
Yeah. I do not know why that got in the background. I'm seeing it too, like on my end, I just see feet and I'm like, why is it there? Like I had that this side. Who knows?
Yeah, no, that is the baby doll that you use with the hips and like,
Yeah.
okay, so here's how the baby turns and the baby turns again. And as I said, remarkably smart creatures. They generally know what they're doing. So,
Well, thank you so much for sharing, and hopefully everyone listened, learned some very wonderful things from it because it was very powerful. And
thank you.
I just hope they
Thank you.
come back to listen to more because I do got more planned. The goal is to kind of get one for every week. I've already missed a week
Wonderful.
technically of the year, but well, almost because we had the first 1 to 4 days of January here. But
Yeah, that's
yeah.
fair. That's fair.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, thank you so much again for sharing your
You're welcome.
story, and everyone stay tuned for the next one.